Crime Fighters, the searchlight on crime and criminality.
Thank you once again, sir, and ask that you please introduce yourself.
I'm Comrade Owuzure Macaulay, Commissioner for Special Duties, Government House in charge of ethnic relations and conflict resolution.
We want to start by asking you to explain to our viewers what your duties are as the commissioner in charge of conflict resolution. It's a novel position. I doubt if more than 2 states in the country has that portfolio.
I'm not sure any state has the portfolios. I don't have counterparts in other states, so I don't go for council meetings. Well, my duties are really very, very wide. We'll talk of ethnic relations, inter-ethnic relations. That is, one, we have the responsibility to build harmony among the various tribes and ethnic nationalities here in Delta State. We have the responsibility to create a conducive atmosphere for investors to come to the state. We have the responsibility to ensure that even within the same ethnic group, there is harmony. In other words, we intervene on issues between different ethnic groups. We intervene on intra matters, both inter and intra matters. Then we also intervene in conflicts that are between investors and communities. You see, and it's on and on like that. It could even be between investors themselves, 2 different organizations having problems. We come into it and resolve them. But by and large, the greatest challenge we have is that of between the ethnic groups and communities and the multinationals in particular.
Could you tell us what role your ministry played in resolving the latest crisis in Warri?
Well, when you say the latest crisis in Warri, I don't know, you mean the war, the fight between the Chekiri Jaws?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what you mean by latest, because as far as I'm concerned, we have put that matter behind us. There has been no hostilities in the last 2 years. So when we start talking about something recent, this one is already behind. Yeah, when I came into office November 17, 2003. That's the day I was given this responsibility. And then there was this heavy curfew in Warri. The whole place was militarized. And the Jaws could not enter the Chekiri enclave. The Chekiris would not go into the Jaw enclaves. Of course, that was about the height of the hostilities. The guns were booming in the riverside. That was when we came in, actually. And I think the governor had this vision that there's somebody to assist him in this area. And that was why he created the office. Even myself, the creation of the office took me unawares, because when it was mentioned, I was wondering where did this come from. But when I now sat and I appreciated his ingenuity and his foresight in creating the office. And so we moved down to Warri here. And the first thing we did was to start to talk with the people, first of all, individually. And we met a lot of resistance. Of course, I must not so fail to say that I had my first baptism from the press, because when I came, I felt the first people to interact with should be the press, to talk with them. But I didn't know then that the press was already fashionalized among the colleagues. They just have their own group who reports the way they want reported. The Chekiris has their own, the Yorubas have their own. And so whatever I said was not reported the way, or for the reason I said it, but was reported the way it suits each of these masters. And so that was my first baptism. And before then too, you also appreciate the fact that they had lost confidence in the ability of government to resolve the matter, irrespective of all His Excellency was putting into the matter. And that is because of this same factor of the press. The press played a major role. So when I came in, I had my first baptism, and that again did not help my takeoff, because before I could even meet the people, there were already this belief that, oh, he said he will remove the Olu. Oh, he said he will create autonomous local government for Robos. Oh, he said this, he said that. So I had this initial challenge to contend with. So the greatest problem I had was to build confidence and to restore the people's confidence in government ability to resolve the issue. But thank God, we surmounted that, and gradually the people begin to agree to talk with me. Gradually, they started to agree to talk with each other, because ab initio, they were not even ready. You can't tell the Chekiri man that come and sit and talk with the German who tell you, apparently for what? They have finished killing us. Is there any more they want to kill? They burn down all the villages. Is there any more they want to burn? What are we talking for? But I made some of them interpret that even for you alone, you that is talking with me, for your life, we can talk. If it's only for the purpose of saving your own life, let us talk. Then let us look back at the glory of worry. Where is it today? It's in shambles. If for that alone that you will be taken as one of those who help to bring back peace and restore the glory of worry, we can talk. If for the fact that if you die today as a leader, you have been, only the just may bury you, only the Chekiris will bury you, we can talk. So, well, after a while, they started listening. They started their own consultation. I gave them time. Of course, I have to bring myself as low as possible to do this job. And as it pleased God, by February 2004, we started sitting. The first committee on peace between the Jaws and the Chekiris was inaugurated. And we started sitting at the naval base, because then it was not safe to make them sit anywhere outside the military formation. So the first assembly was at the naval base, and we sat for about 6 months and signed the first peace accord to cease hostilities, to allow people to move together. And that was the beginning of it. Along the line, with the help of the secretary to the state government, we were also able to bring the youths who were the foot soldiers together, and they also signed an accord to stop hostilities. And that was how we started. And you see, for everything you do, you must also add some prayers. We prayed to God to intervene, because it was beyond man. And God also intervened. And I will recall vividly, and it gives me, it's a happy moment I always want to recall. 31st of December 2003, when we met at the Security Council, we put up a case that the curfew should be lifted to allow Christians go for the New Year Eve prayers. And that was the first time for so many years that Christians were allowed to go for New Year Eve prayers, midnight prayers. And since then, there has never been curfew worry again. We lifted it temporarily, that let's just take it as an experiment. After about 2 weeks, the matter came back that we should restore it. Some of us said, no, let us continue with this experiment. And my brother, 2.5 years gone now, there has been no curfew worry. We have also battled to remove the military from the streets of Warri. We have also succeeded in doing that. Today, as you drive through Warri, all those roadblocks that were mounted by angry-looking soldiers, they are no more there. Today, if you go back to the waterside, that was like a ghost yard when we came in 2003, it is booming with activities. Today, those youths who were occupying properties that were not theirs, that were seized as a result of the crisis, through the help of the governor, this office have been able to rehabilitate them, and they are no more there. We are facing the last batch of that now, which has to do with the Chekiris that occupy your properties. I just finished that by this weekend. We have settled them, and they've left those properties for their rightful owners. So we can go on talking and talking. You remember the turbulent Benin River, you must have read about it. Last year, I was able to go down, open it up, and commercial activities have opened up in that river. That was after I reached an accord with both the Jaws and the Chekiris on the Benin River that there will be no hostilities. And we opened it, and there has been no problem there. So there are so many of them we can go on counting and counting, of course, but I'm not here to talk about the achievements of this office. But again, when I talk about the achievements of this office, we must first of all give the glory to God. Secondly, we give the credit to the governor, because he gave us the responsibility and he gave us the wherewithal to do the job.
Thank you very much, sir. We will say congratulations for your efforts and that of the governor so far. I want to ask this question now. Now that we've achieved peace, what is on ground to ensure that it remains and that the occurrences of those ugly years do not repeat itself?
Yeah, The first thing we did, like you rightly observed, was to restore the peace, was to stop the human and material carnage. I haven't succeeded in doing that. In this, my second tenure, I refer to it as my second tenure because the ESCO was dissolved and we were brought back again. What I need to do and what I'm trying to do now is to complete the challenges of the restoration, rehabilitation of the people, and restoration of peace. Once that completed, we're beginning to look the whole of this year, or from the second quarter of the year, we're going to look at what structure we're going to put down in place. Because I'm not going to remain here forever, it's not my father's job. But what are we going to put down here so that even when we leave, it will be difficult for this level of hostility to ever take place again in this state. And I'm beginning to work on that. There are not issues I want to disclose yet, but I'm working seriously on that. Because I want to say that by the time I leave, there will have been a structure starting from the immediate community, through the wards, the local government, down to the state. A structure that will checkmate any form of conflict. Of course, there are bound to be conflicts, but that will not allow it to degenerate into crisis. That is the greatest challenge now, and I'm already doing some work in that direction. But at the appropriate time, when I have the approval of my boss to make it known to the world, we will do that.
Well, we know quite a number of people were lost properties, displaced in the course of the crisis. Was there any efforts to compensate, identify and compensate such people as a way of restoring confidence to them that the government cares?
Yeah, that's exactly what I told you we're doing now. We started it and we're still on it. That somebody's property was taken over by the opposition and he had no guts, he could not go back there before now. And now we're saying, no, you can't stay here, you come, what do we do for you? Let's rent a house, let's give you something, you leave the property. It's part of the restoration of confidence. We did it for the Chekiris first, because we had more of the Ijaw militants taking over Chekiri properties. So we finished with that last year. And this year, and like I told you, by this last weekend, I've just finished with the Chekiris who also occupied Ijaw properties in the Iyara area. That again, we have finished. So we have balanced it. Now we're looking seriously now, and we started doing that already. If you came here in the past 3 weeks, it's been meetings every day. If you came here yesterday, you had thousands of women here. Those are Ijaw women, not just from Warri alone, from every part of Ijaw land. Some of them are even from outside the state, who took over properties that were not Ijaw people. So some of them belong to Chekiri, some belong to even Urhobos, who took them over, built on top. Now we're trying to remove them as well so that the rightful owners of the properties will take them back. You see, all these are ways of rehabilitation. We're not making it for anybody to lose out totally. You that is occupied, if we throw you to the street like those thousands of youths we rehabilitated, we just throw them into the society by means of force, of course, they will constitute social nuisance. That is why we took the initiative, okay, let us find something for them. Let us do that will make them to have a better accommodation outside instead of the cluster they were living in. So we settled them. At the same time, you that owns the property, come and take over your property. So nobody cries. So we're balancing every step. And we're trying as much as possible to heal the wounds. Having said that, we're about also going into assisting those whose villages were sacked, those whose houses were burnt. We're not saying building houses for them or paying them for it, but we're going to assist them. If possible, to even go back and clear the debris of the entire village that was set ablaze and the people left their home. Some left their home for the past 5 years. So the government is working seriously. They want to see that between now and March, we'll close those chapters, both for the Jaws, the Chekiris, and even the Urhobos. The Jaws, their major problem is the Warri Corner problem. The government has told them now you cannot go back there because the order for you to leave Warri Corner came from the presidency. And that is because it was associated with piracy and other crimes in the river. Now you can't go back there. We have asked you to come and take something to get accommodation on land. You said you will not. So now you, the Ogbujo Governing Council, the Ogbujo Traditional Council, go and give us a place on the river that belongs to you, that's not in dispute between you and either Urhobo or Chekiri people, a land that is purely yours. Then let us open it up so that your people can go back there and settle again. That option we have given to them. Yesterday I called them for a meeting. How far They are still, of course, they've not finally agreed on how to go about it. But of course, I can tell you that right in the state here, we don't have the powers to ask them to go back to that same worry corner where the military drove them from, because it was not an initiative of the state governor. So we cannot do otherwise. We can only assist them as our people to get to somewhere else and rehabilitate them. For the Chekiris, they've made a presentation to the governor, and we have discussed, we have agreed on what to do. That will be done very soon. Same for the Robos of Warri, under the leadership of Chief Okumagba. So all these are meant to heal the wounds and restore confidence. But even while we're doing that, I must commend the leaders. They are all talking peace, from the Lutro, Okumagba, Rike Clark, everybody's talking peace. I'm sure they've started visiting. Short at that level, immediately below that, they've started interacting. While I was managing the peace committee, I make sure they start visiting themselves, because that's the way to restore confidence. Today, the Chekiri women go to the Ogbujo market, the Ogbujo people go to Pesu market. Short, social life has picked up.
Thank you, sir. On the last note, I'd like you to sound you out on this and find out what you'd want to advise the people to do. Now we've left the part of government, what the people should do on their own part to maintain this peace and live as well as they used to in years gone by.
Yeah, one thing I always preach to them is the fact that we all have a stake in worry. Even though we are brought about this carnage, one thing I must also let you know is that in my going around the local governments, some of them has even realized the fact that going to the war was a mistake, that there was no basis for the war. So I let them appreciate, okay, now that you appreciate there was no basis for the war, we must all join hands together to restore worry back to where it used to be. And the only way we can do that is not to give the impression that there is fight in worry. And good enough, apart from what the media say about worry, that worry, yes, I must tell you that worry as a city, as at today, is one of the most peaceful cities in this country, whether in terms of violent crime or name it. There is no hostility in worry as a city. And the people like me, you are here now, look around, they're moving into each other. You don't even know who is Ichekiri now, who is Ijo, or who is Urobo. And that's because they've appreciated that until they do that, investors will not come back. And if investors fail to come back to worry, then there can be no development. Then the youth cannot be employed. And one of the greatest fallouts from the worry crisis is the high level of unemployed youths. If you go to the riverside, it will baffle you. There's no amount of opportunity the state government will create today that can absorb 25% of the unemployed youth we have resulting from this worry crisis. So the only thing we can do as a people for the Jaws, the Chekiris, the Urubos, is to make sure that there's a peaceful atmosphere so that some of these companies that fled the place as a result of the hostility will come back. And once they start coming back, there will be job opportunity. Because most of them are not even used to government job. You give them office job, they cannot do it. We're used to working in MPA, work in NRRO, on NRRO Road, so many companies, in short, these service companies to the oil multinationals, and even the multinationals themselves. So that is what we're doing now, and I know it's yielding results.
On the final note, we want you to, how would you describe the person of Chief James Obori and his efforts at restoring peace and bringing about development to the big cat Delta State?
Well, I used to find it more comfortable to describe it when I was not in his cabinet. Today, if you say anything about him as a commissioner, it will be said, oh, because he has given him an assignment. But I was freer when I was in the labor movement, and I could say things, and people would see them to be very, very objective. You see, he's one man that came ahead of his time, and is greatly misunderstood. That's his greatest problem. He's greatly misunderstood, whether at home or outside. But the problem is more from the outside. Because his vision of development, his vision of what democracy should be, is not yet acceptable by majority of our politicians. Like he was talking of resource control, he was talking of fiscal federalism, all those are basic elements of democracy, but which our people, because of our immediate past from the military, do not want to accept. And until we accept that democracy must mean, let the will of the people. There must be some basic tenets of federalism. What is fiscal federalism? What are we to do with our force? What does the Constitution say? Who takes care of the police? Who takes care of the army? What is the duty of the state? What is the duty of the local government? What is the duty of the federal? If we cannot define these things, we are not yet in democracy. We are merely practicing maybe civil rule, but not democracy. And that is one area he has been misunderstood from the onset. Talking about development, that I can tell you categorically that I can challenge anybody from any part of this country to say he has done more than James Ibori has done in Delta State. We are here now. Look at the roads. Look at the bridges. Look at water supply to the villages. I say this with every authority because I was also on the other side. I was here during the military. I have not left this state since it was created, so I can tell you the two sides. There was a time I had cause, and it was still in the papers, to describe our schools as mere poultry houses because of the level of deterioration that our educational system was passing through. But today you cannot say that. If you pass through a school today, you know that that is a secondary school, or that's a primary school, well fenced, at least some roofs. That's not to say that we have reached where we should reach. Of course, it will be a miracle for one to leave that level, starting from the scratch, to reach the peak in 4 or 5 years. But it has done so well in that area. Then, like you talk of roads, at times you drive some bush roads, farm roads, you wouldn't know. You think you are going to one major town. It ends up in one small village of 10, 15 houses. You have spent millions of naira to tar such roads. If you go around the town, these things are there. The only people talk about him today that most of the jobs were poorly done. Fine. The man wanted to encourage indigenous contractor empowerment. Let me develop infrastructure. Let me also develop the human beings. The human beings betrayed him by not doing good jobs. But these are our own people. They are not foreigners. They didn't bring them from the air. So you cannot hold him responsible for it. And you don't expect him as a governor, after approving the jobs, he will be the one to be in the field. So we should be able to ask ourselves that, as followers, have we done well? Have we been sincere followers? But good enough, he has learned his lessons. Now nobody mobilizes you to do a job. They give you a contract, go and look for money to do it. So if you don't do it well, they will not issue a certificate and you will not be paid. So nobody can accuse him now of giving people money and people bolts away. Of course, one good thing is that nobody have ever accused him, even his greatest opponents, of taking money from any contractor. That is the last thing. James will not discuss any term with anybody. He's not even ready to see you and your money, but go and do the job for him. So in terms of development, I think he has exceeded any other person you can think of in this state. And I'm glad that when the president came here, he was marveled by what he saw. But even then, he cut short because of time. We were still ready to take him to major projects. But with the 2 or 3 bridges he saw, he was surprised. It is not done. It's not heard of in the history of this country that a man starts a project that runs into 4, 5, 6 billion, and in less than 4 years he completes it. He laid the foundation, like Bomodi Bridge. The president came to lay the foundation, and the president came to commission it. It's not a whitewash project. It's not an elephant project. People are seeing it. You drive through now, you drive into Bomodi, and that is the first bridge ever in history that has gone into Ijaw land. And of course, the former governor of Bayelsa State did say it openly, that in the history of this country, this is the first time that somebody will be courageous enough to bridge any part of the Ijaw nation. And we must give that credit to James Ibori. Ugbemudia tried to conceive the idea, but he couldn't give birth to it. And today, James has done it. And I think we can go a lot. Is it light? My own village, for instance, they have lights. But by the year 2000, in December 2000, my village had lights. It came in 1999. And so many villages like that. If you talk of water projects, that are numerous. All you need to do is go get the copy of the facts behind the figures, and you will see all the projects there. Nobody has said that any project that is in that paper is not correct. At least since it was made public, I've not read anybody who said no. You can only say the figures are high, or some of those projects are broken down like water. Of course, it's normal. When they break down, you maintain them. It's not like it's not there. The man has not given you facts of maintaining them, but facts that he put those things there. So the projects are there, challenging that you have light. That you said there's electricity in my village, there's no electricity. Nobody can come up with it because, of course, the government will not tell you lies on paper.
Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure talking to you.